Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome to another video, and today we are going to be taking a look at the KTT Rose switches. Alright, so let's get straight into the review. So the KTT Rose is a 5-pin linear switch. 5-pin meaning that it has 2 extra pins compared to your normal 3-pin switch to secure it onto your PCB so it doesn't wobble nearly as much. Its stock spring is a progressive spring that actuates at 60 grams. I'll put the bottom off force on screen as I do not know it currently. It has a 4mm standard travel distance and costs only 27 cents a switch, which is a very competitive price as that is only a tiny bit more than Gathering Yellows, previously known as the Budget Kings. But in this case, I think in those few cents that you're spending extra can go a long way in these switches. I'll get to why in my final thoughts later in the video, but let's continue on with the specs. It has the top housing made out of clear polycarbonate, bottom housing made out of pink nylon. The stem is made out of palm, and I do not know about the spring, but you know, it's just a standard spring. I would say it doesn't have that much spring ping or that much noise stock, though of course there's always going to be a tiny bit in just about any stock switch, so I would recommend lubing it anyways. If you take a closer look at the housings of these switches, we can notice that they are slightly different than our normal cherry type switch, because these are a kale style switch, which means they are different to open up, so you may need a different style of switch opener if you don't already have one. I personally do not have a kale style opener, so I had to do it the hard way with my cherry switch opener, though essentially on the inside it's just about the same. You might be wondering, does this type of housing lead to better tolerances or worse tolerances than normal switches? I haven't tried many kale style switches. In fact, these are the only ones I've ever tried, but I actually find them to be extremely tight and very good. In fact, tighter than my alpacas and Garon Black Ink V2s, which are like 2 times or 3 times the price of these, which is kind of crazy. And honestly, I don't think they need films at all. The housings are just super tight, and the stem is pretty tight as well. I'd say on par with alpacas, a bit better than Ink V2s, which again, extremely surprising for the price of these switches. Alright, so how do these switches feel? Stock and lubed. When it comes to smoothness, I'd say they're pretty decent. I mean, stock, they obviously do have a bit of scratch. I'd say a bit better than, let's say, Gathering Yellows. Around the same, honestly, as alpacas, or maybe a bit worse. So they're pretty smooth stock, like I said. But once you lube them, they get, obviously, much smoother. But they're actually much smoother than you'd expect, especially for the price. When actually typing on them fully lubed, they don't feel much scratchier than alpacas or Gathering Black Inks V2. I'm only mentioning those 2 switches because those are the only 2 linears that I've ever tried other than these and Gathering Yellows. But if I'm being honest, I feel like Gathering Yellows are completely out of the picture here, because if these are in the tier of like alpacas or Gathering Black Inks, then like why even put Gathering Yellows in the picture? Of course, preference. But again, I'm just stating what I'm thinking of these switches. Alright, so now talk about the feel, the tolerances, specs, price, all that type of stuff. What about the sound of these switches? That's one big part about choosing a switch for your keyboard, is how does it sound, how will it sound on your keyboard. And I have the Vast 60 here. Obviously, your keyboard is going to greatly affect the sound of your keyboard. What did I just say? Your keyboard is going to greatly affect the sound of your switches, so your switches aren't the only thing that's going to affect sound. I have 2 sound test videos of the Vast 60 with KTT Rose switches if you want to check them out. One stock, one lube. I'll put links in the description for that if you want to check them out. But for this video, I'll just give my thoughts on it. So you can go check out those videos if you want to hear how it sounds yourself. But again, take sound tests with a grain of salt. They're not completely accurate to what you will have. Compare the differences of these switches compared to other switches on the same board, and maybe those slight differences or characteristics may apply for you or not, who knows. Again, like, sound tests are just very inaccurate, so yeah, don't take them too seriously. If you told me these are a much more expensive switch in this keyboard, I would believe, because in my opinion they just sound like super good. They have a nice deep poppy sound. My alpacas, I love my alpacas, right? But they have a sort of flat and not too interesting or poppy loud Okay, so I've said all these like great things about this. Like, come on, there has to be a trade-off. They can't be this cheap, have like no flaws whatsoever. And yeah, there is none. Like, I literally can't think of a single flaw on these switches. It's kind of crazy. If I'm like being extremely nitpicky, I could say they're not as smooth as Get On Black ink. You can't compare these to those because those are like triple the price of these. And what's even crazier is that these can be compared to those, but it's still, you can't complain about them being slightly less smoother when they're so cheap. If there's anything I find with these, like obviously it kind of does seem a bit too good to be true, which a lot of the times you should be a bit weary about. Maybe I just got a good batch, maybe there's gonna be bad batches. I haven't heard a single person say that at all, but if there's anything bad that happens, I'll put an update maybe in a pinned comment or something. But currently I haven't had a single problem with these, and I'm using them as my main switches on my VAS 60 over my Alpacas, U4Ts, Get On Black inks, which again, they're twice, triple the price. It's just crazy. Alright, I think that's gonna be the end of the video. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. It really means a lot. If you enjoyed this video, then maybe consider liking the video, subscribing, maybe checking out my other videos as well. I'm currently trying to upload a lot more videos and I have a lot more ideas coming. Also, before you go, I might start streaming on Twitch, not keyboard related stuff, but maybe some other games and stuff. If you're interested in that, maybe give it a follow. I'll leave it in the description if you're interested in any of that. Hope you have a great day, and goodbye.